When the stranger appeared, the evening was quiet but not peaceful. The city lights glowed in the distance, and the streets carried the soft noise of traffic. People moved quickly, rushing to their homes, holding their bags, and keeping their eyes on their own world. Among them walked Keanu Reeves, dressed simply, his head slightly lowered, trying not to attract attention. He loved moments like these, when he could walk without the weight of fame, without cameras flashing, just as a simple man among strangers. But on that night, something was different. At the corner of a street, near a bus stop where the shadows of the lamps stretched across the road, Keanu noticed a man sitting on the ground. The man's clothes were torn, his shoes barely held together, and his hands shook as if he had not eaten in days. Most people walked past without looking. Some turned their faces away. Others simply pretended he wasn't there. Keanu slowed his steps. His eyes softened, and his heart tightened in his chest. Inside Keanu, there was always this silent voice that reminded him of the years when life was not easy. When he had faced loss, when he had walked alone, when he had wondered if tomorrow would be kinder than today. He looked at the man and felt a reflection of that same pain. Without thinking about who might notice him, without worrying about being recognized, he stepped closer. The man raised his head slowly, and his tired eyes met Keanu's. For a moment, there was no sound, only the distant hum of cars passing by. The man whispered, his voice rough and low, "Do you have something to eat? Anything at all?" Keanu knelt down beside him, his voice gentle, filled with warmth. "What's your name, my friend?" "David," the man replied, almost ashamed, his eyes falling back to the ground. Keanu felt the weight of that name. He saw the quiet dignity hidden beneath the dirt, the beard, the worn-out clothes. This was not just a stranger on the street. This was a man with a story, with dreams once bright, with battles fought and perhaps lost. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out the small bag he carried. Inside were some fruits, a sandwich, and a bottle of water he had picked up earlier. He placed them gently into David's trembling hands. David stared at the food as if it were a miracle. His lips shook, and he tried to speak, but no words came out. Finally, a single tear escaped his eye, sliding down his cheek. People passing by slowed their steps now. Some recognized the tall man with kind eyes. Some even whispered his name, but most remained silent, watching the scene unfold. They expected maybe a quick moment of charity, a gesture, and then the actor would leave. But Keanu did not stand. He sat down right there, on the cold ground, beside David. "Eat," he said softly. "Take your time." And as David ate, his hands shaking as he lifted the food to his mouth, Keanu listened. David began to speak, slowly, his words broken but honest. He told him about the job he had lost, about the family he could no longer provide for, about the night he had spent under the open sky, waiting for hope that never came. Keanu did not interrupt. He did not look away. He simply listened with the kind of silence that gave value to every word. Minutes turned into nearly an hour. The street grew colder, the lights brighter, and yet Keanu stayed. And then, in that moment, something unexpected happened. From across the street, a voice called out, firm but surprised, "Keanu, is that you?" Keanu turned, and his eyes widened slightly. Standing there, holding a small bag of groceries, was Ana de Armas. She had just finished her day, dressed simply, with her hair tied back. She had been heading home, but what she saw stopped her in her tracks. She looked at Keanu sitting on the ground beside a homeless man, his head lowered, his hand resting gently on the man's shoulder. For a second, her heart raced. This was not the Keanu she saw in movies, not the man with cameras chasing him. This was a man whose heart was open, whose kindness was real, unshaken, and unplanned. Anna walked closer. her steps slow, her eyes locked on him. She had always respected Keanu as an actor, but at that moment, she saw something deeper. Not a star, not a legend, but a soul who carried pain, empathy, and resilience inside him. Keanu looked up at her and smiled softly, almost embarrassed to be seen like this. But Anna only returned the smile, her eyes glistening with quiet respect. And that was how the night began. A simple street corner, a man in need, a stranger who gave without hesitation, and a witness who saw the truth of his heart. But none of them knew that this small act would lead to something greater, something that would test their strength, their choices, and even their understanding of what kindness truly means. The night passed quietly, but Anna could not sleep. She kept replaying the moment in her mind, the way Keanu knelt on the street, the way he offered his hand before offering help, the way the homeless man's eyes lit up as if someone had finally seen him after years of being invisible. It was not just kindness. It was something deeper, something powerful. She sat by her window in her apartment, looking out at the city lights. She wondered how many more people like that man were hidden in corners, fighting silent battles every single day. She had always cared for people, but tonight her heart felt different, heavier and yet stronger. The next morning, Anna arrived at the film set earlier than usual. She expected Keanu to be there as well, but when she walked into the lot, she noticed him sitting alone on a bench near the trailers. He was drinking coffee from a paper cup, dressed simply as always, his posture calm but thoughtful. She walked over and sat beside him. For a moment, she did not say anything. She just wanted to see if he would speak first. He looked at her, smiled faintly, and said, "You didn't sleep much, did you?" Anna blinked, surprised. "How did you know?" "You're carrying the same weight I did when I first noticed," he answered softly. "Once you really see someone who is suffering, you can't unsee it. It stays with you." His words struck her deeply. She wanted to understand more, so she asked, "Why do you stop for strangers like that? Most people walk past and never think twice." Keanu looked down at his cup, then at the ground. His voice was steady but heavy with memory. "Because once, I was the stranger. Not in the same way, but I know what it feels like to be unseen. Life has taken things from me too. Pain has a way of teaching us that everyone we pass carries a story. We just don't always take time to listen." Anna stayed quiet, realizing he was speaking from his own scars. She had heard pieces of his past from the news, but hearing him speak like this made it more real. She respected him even more. A crew member came by to tell them shooting would start soon, but Keanu raised his hand gently and asked for a few more minutes. He turned back to Anna and said, "You asked me why I stopped yesterday. The truth is, kindness is not something we plan. It is something we choose in the moment. I don't believe in saving the whole world, but I do believe in saving the moment that is right in front of us." Anna felt her chest tighten again. She whispered, "Yesterday, you didn't just give him money. You gave him something else." Keanu nodded. "I gave him my time, and sometimes time is worth more than money." The words were simple, yet they carried a truth so powerful that Anna found herself unable to speak. As the day went on, the set became busy. Cameras moved, directors gave instructions, makeup artists hurried back and forth. But Anna was not the same as yesterday. She kept looking around, noticing small details she had ignored before. The tired expression of a camera operator who had been working late, the quiet assistant carrying heavy equipment alone, the cleaner sweeping a corner while everyone else rushed past. And for the first time, she realized what Keanu had meant. People were all around her, yet most of them were invisible. During the lunch break, Anna decided to act. She walked to the assistant carrying equipment and asked, "Do you need help?" The man looked startled, almost confused. No one ever asked that. I'm fine, miss." But Anna insisted. She lifted one of the lighter bags and carried it with him. The man looked at her with a small smile, grateful but still unsure. Keanu saw this from across the lot. He did not interrupt. He did not comment, but a faint smile appeared on his face. He knew she had begun to understand. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, they both walked out together. The city lights flickered to life, and the sound of traffic filled the air. Anna glanced at him and asked, "Keanu, do you think kindness really changes anything? The world is so big, and the problems are endless." Keanu walked in silence for a moment, then replied, "Kindness doesn't always change the world, Anna, but it changes people. And when people change, the world begins to shift slowly, piece by piece." His words sank deep into her heart. She realized now that his silence yesterday was not emptiness. It was wisdom. It was the kind of silence that carried more meaning than loud speeches. But just as they were about to part ways, something unexpected happened. A man came running down the street, chasing after a bus that had already pulled away. He tripped and fell hard on the pavement. People glanced at him but kept walking. Before Anna could even react, Keanu was already running toward him. The minutes felt like hours. Keanu and Anna sat quietly on the bench near the building, the sound of traffic blending with the chatter of people passing by. Yet their focus was on one thing only: the man inside, standing before strangers who would decide if he had a chance or if his struggle would only grow heavier. Anna leaned forward, elbows resting on her knees, her eyes fixed on the glass doors. She whispered, almost to herself, "Do you think he will make it?" Keanu did not answer right away. He looked at the crowd moving around them, then said softly, "Hope is not always certain, Anna. But sometimes, when someone is holding on by a thread, what matters most is knowing they are not alone while they wait." His words lingered in the air. They were not promises, but they carried a weight that gave her comfort. She realized he was not only speaking about the man inside, but about life itself. Suddenly, the doors opened. The man stepped out, holding his folder against his chest. His steps were slow, his eyes lowered. Anna's heart dropped. She feared the worst. They both stood up quickly. Anna approached him first. "What happened? Did they reject you?" The man looked at her, his face unreadable at first. Then slowly, a faint smile spread across his lips. His voice shook, but it carried joy. They told me I was late. They said it almost cost me. But when I explained, when I showed up breathless and desperate, they gave me one chance to speak. And they offered me the job." Anna's eyes widened, her breath catching in her throat. "They did?" The man nodded, his smile trembling as tears welled in his eyes. "For the first time in months, someone said yes to me. I finally have a chance to rebuild." Keanu smiled quietly, the corners of his lips lifting in calm satisfaction. "See? The world doesn't always shut its doors. Sometimes it just waits for you to knock a little harder." The man grabbed Keanu's hand suddenly, holding it tightly. "I don't know your name. I don't know why you stopped for me. But I will never forget this. You didn't just help me catch a job. You reminded me I still matter." Keanu's voice was gentle, steady, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "You always mattered. Never forget that." The man's tears fell freely now. He turned, walking down the street with a new strength in his steps, holding his folder like a treasure. Anna stood still, her heart overwhelmed. As the man disappeared into the crowd, Anna turned to Keanu, her voice trembling. "You changed his life today." But Keanu shook his head lightly. "No, Anna. I didn't change his life. He changed it himself. All I did was stand beside him long enough for him to see his own strength." The words sank into her soul. She realized now that kindness was not about saving people. It was about reminding them of the strength they already carried inside. They walked slowly back toward the main street. The sun was setting, painting the sky with soft orange and purple shades. The city looked different to Anna now, less cold, less distant, more alive with stories she had never noticed before. As they reached the sidewalk, Anna said softly, "Keanu, why do you do this? You could live in your own world, untouched by these struggles, yet you keep stepping into them." Keanu stopped for a moment, watching a young boy holding his mother's hand as they crossed the road. He answered quietly, "Because I know pain, and because once, people stepped into mine. If I can be that for someone else, even for a moment, then my own pain is not wasted." Anna's chest tightened. She had always admired him as an actor, as a professional, but today she admired him as a human being. Just then, as they turned the corner, another scene unfolded before them. A group of teenagers stood near a small shop, laughing and pointing. A little girl, no more than 8 years old, sat on the curb, holding a broken toy. She looked close to tears as the older kids mocked her. Anna gasped softly. "Look at her. They're making fun of her." Keanu's eyes narrowed slightly, but not with anger, rather with a quiet determination. He walked toward the girl, his steps calm but firm. The teenagers noticed him, their laughter fading as they recognized who he was. Some stepped back nervously, unsure how to react. Keanu knelt down in front of the girl, just as he had with the homeless man days before. His voice was soft. "Hey, what's wrong?" The girl sniffled, holding up the broken toy. "They laughed at me. My toy broke, and now it's ruined." Keanu took the toy gently, studying it as if it were the most important thing in the world. Then he smiled at her. "I don't think it's ruined. I think it just needs someone who cares to fix it." The girl's eyes widened. "Can it be fixed?" "Everything can be fixed," Keanu said softly. "Sometimes it just takes patience." Anna stood behind him, her heart swelling again. The teenagers who had mocked the girl now looked ashamed, their eyes lowered. One of them even muttered, "Sorry," before walking away. The girl smiled faintly, her tears drying. Keanu handed the toy back to her, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. "Don't let anyone tell you what's broken can't be made new. Remember that." The girl hugged the toy tightly and whispered, "Thank you." Anna watched silently, her chest full of emotion. She realized something powerful in that moment. Keanu's kindness was not random. It was a pattern, a way of living. And she wondered what lesson life was preparing for her next, as she continued walking beside him through a city full of unseen stories. The night air was cool, and the city glowed with endless lights. Anna walked beside Keanu, her mind heavy with everything she had witnessed. She had always known kindness mattered, but seeing it lived out in silence, in small and selfless moments, was changing her in ways she could not explain. They stopped at a small cafe near the edge of the street. Keanu suggested they sit for tea before heading back. The place was quiet, almost hidden, with a few wooden tables and soft music playing in the background. They sat by the window watching people pass by, each carrying their own story. Anna leaned forward, her voice low. "Keanu, do you ever wonder if these small acts are enough? The world is full of pain. Helping one person at a time feels so small." Keanu looked into his cup for a moment before replying. "A candle looks small too, but in darkness, it changes everything. If one act of kindness keeps one soul from giving up, then it is not small. It is enough." His words echoed inside her. She thought about the homeless man, the man who almost lost his chance at work, the little girl with the broken toy. Each of them had been touched in ways that might change their lives forever. But as they sat there, something unexpected happened. A young waiter approached their table, his hands shaking slightly as he set down their cups. His face looked pale, his eyes restless, and his voice cracked as he whispered, "Sir, can I ask you something?" Keanu looked up, calm as always. "Of course." The waiter glanced around nervously, then leaned in. "I don't want to disturb you, but I recognize you. I know who you are, and I need help. Please, I don't know who else to ask." Anna's heart skipped. There was desperation in his voice, the kind that came from deep suffering. She looked at Keanu, waiting for his reaction. Keanu's eyes softened. "Sit down. Tell me what's happening." The waiter slid into the chair opposite them, his hands twisting together. His voice was low, almost trembling. "My mother is very sick. She needs medicine, and the cost is more than I can ever afford. I've been working double shifts, borrowing from everyone I know, but I'm still short. Today the doctor told me if she doesn't get the treatment soon, she won't make it." Anna's throat tightened. She felt tears press against her eyes. The boy continued, his voice cracking. "I don't want money for myself. I just don't want to lose her. I've already lost my father. She's all I have left." Silence filled the space. The cafe around them seemed to fade. Only the boy's trembling voice remained. Keanu leaned forward, resting his hands calmly on the table. "What's your name?" "Luis," the boy whispered. "Luis," Keanu said gently. "Thank you for trusting us with your pain. That takes courage." Luis swallowed hard, his eyes shining with both fear and hope. Anna spoke softly. "We'll help. We'll figure something out." But Luis shook his head. "No, you don't understand. The amount is so high. I would never expect strangers to give so much." Keanu stayed calm, his eyes steady. "Sometimes help comes from where we least expect it." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small folded envelope he had been carrying. Inside were savings he had set aside quietly. Without hesitation, he slid it across the table to Luis. The boy froze. I can't accept this. It's too much. You don't even know me." Keanu's voice was calm, but strong. "You don't have to know someone to care about them. Your mother deserves a chance, and you deserve hope." Luis broke down, covering his face with his hands as tears poured out. "Thank you. Thank you. I swear I'll repay this someday. I'll never forget it." Anna sat in silence, overwhelmed by the depth of what she was witnessing. This was not a movie scene. It was not a scripted moment. It was raw humanity unfolding before her eyes. After Luis left, clutching the envelope with trembling hands, Anna turned to Keanu. Her voice shook. "Do you realize what you keep doing? You're saving lives piece by piece." But just as she began to feel the warmth of the moment, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face changed. Her brother had sent her a message. It read, "Anna, it's Mom. She fell again. The doctor says it's serious. Come as soon as you can." Anna's hands shook as she showed Keanu the message. "My mother. She's sick too. I didn't know it had gotten this bad." Keanu placed his hand gently over hers. His eyes were steady, full of calm strength. "Then let's go to her. Right now." The cafe noise returned around them, but for Anna, the world had shifted again. This time, it was not about strangers. It was about her own family, her own test. The taxi ride to the hospital felt longer than any journey Anna had ever taken. Her hands shook as she clutched her phone, her brother's message still glowing on the screen. Fear pressed against her chest, heavy and unrelenting. She kept imagining her mother lying alone in pain, wondering if she would reach in time. Keanu sat beside her, calm as always, though his eyes carried the quiet weight of empathy. He did not try to fill the silence with empty words. Instead, he placed a hand lightly over hers, a simple gesture that steadied her breathing. His silence, once again, said more than any speech could. When they arrived, Anna rushed through the hospital doors. Her brother was waiting, his face pale with worry. "She's inside. The doctors say her condition is unstable. They don't know how much longer she has if she doesn't respond to the new treatment." Anna's throat closed. Tears burned her eyes as she hurried to the room. She found her mother lying on the bed, frail, her breathing uneven. Tubes and monitors surrounded her, each beep echoing the fragility of life. "Mama," Anna whispered, kneeling at her side. Her mother's eyes fluttered open. A faint smile touched her lips when she saw her daughter. "Anna, you came." Anna held her hand tightly, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm here, Mama. I'm here." Keanu stood quietly by the doorway, his presence respectful, almost invisible, yet grounding. He did not step closer until Anna looked back at him, silently asking for strength. Then he moved forward and stood by her side. The doctor entered, explaining the situation with calm urgency. "The treatment is expensive, and it is not guaranteed to work, but without it, her chances are very low." Anna felt her world spin. She had money saved, but not enough to cover it all. Her career was growing, but even with all her work, this moment felt too heavy for her alone. She looked at her mother's fragile frame, then at Keanu, her eyes full of desperation. Before she could speak, Keanu quietly stepped toward the doctor. "Do what you must. I will handle the cost." Anna froze. "Keanu, no, I can't let you." But he placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his voice calm. "Anna, listen. This isn't about me. This is about your mother. She needs time, and you need hope. Let me stand with you." Tears spilled down her face. She wanted to argue, but his eyes carried such steady kindness that her words dissolved. He was not offering charity. He was offering respect, the same way he had to every stranger before. The treatment began. Hours passed, heavy with uncertainty. Anna sat by her mother's side, Keanu sitting silently beside her. Every so often he would place a hand on her shoulder or simply look at her with eyes that carried strength when hers felt broken. Finally, in the early hours of morning, the doctor returned. "She is responding. It will be slow and recovery is not certain, but for now, she is stable. She has a chance." Anna broke down, sobbing into her hands. Her brother hugged her tightly, relief flooding through them both. Her mother opened her eyes again, weak but alive. She looked at Keanu, studying him for a moment. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it carried gratitude. You helped my daughter carry this weight. Thank you." Keanu shook his head softly. "No need to thank me. Family deserves to be fought for." Anna turned to him, her heart overwhelmed. "Keanu, I don't know how to repay you." He smiled faintly, his voice quiet but certain. "Kindness doesn't need repayment. It only needs to be passed on. One day, you will stand where I stand now, and you will choose to lift someone else. That is enough." His words etched themselves into her heart like truth carved into stone. Days later, as her mother's condition slowly improved, Anna walked out of the hospital with Keanu. The morning sun was bright, the city already alive with movement. She stopped on the sidewalk, turning to him. "I used to think kindness was about giving when it was easy," she said softly. "But now I see it is about giving when it hurts. You've shown me that, and I will never be the same again." Keanu looked at her with gentle eyes. "Life will always test us, Anna. Sometimes it breaks us, sometimes it heals us. But if we choose kindness, even in silence, we create a light that no darkness can put out." They stood there for a moment, the world rushing around them. yet everything felt still. Anna realized that what she had witnessed was not just kindness, it was a way of living, a way of honoring humanity itself. And as she looked at Keanu, she knew she had not just seen an actor she admired. She had seen a man whose silent acts of kindness carried more power than any stage, any screen, or any fame. In that moment, Anna promised herself that she would carry the same light forward. And somewhere in the city, in places unseen, someone else waited for that same light to reach them.